Okay, everyone, welcome to leadership class. Uh, this chapter we are going to talk to managerial traits and skills. So let's go ahead and start the class. Okay, so the learning objectives would be understanding how conceptions about the importance of traits have changed over the past 70 years, understand the different types of traits that have been used in leadership research, understand the types of research methods that have been used to study leadership traits and skills, and finally understand what traits and skills are most relevant for effective leadership. We'll also discuss understanding how traits and skills are related to leadership behavior, and understand how the relevance of traits or skills depends on the situation, types of organization, and national culture. We also try to understand the traits and skills that cause some people to derail in their managerial career, and finally, understanding the limitations of the trait approach. Okay, so the nature of traits and skills. So what is trait? Actually, it is a variety of individual attributes, including aspects of personality, temperament, needs, motives, and values. So basically, trait is the overall attributes of the individual. So their personality, their temperament, their needs, their motives, values, all that together will create one's trait, and all in all, we say that person has this type of trait or that type of trait, and it's kind of various, and it's like a combination of all of those attributes. Then comes the need or motives of somebody's need, as we discussed that last semester in the marketing course. Also, is desire for particular types of a stimuli or experience. So motive or need is basically the basic desire or motivation that causes someone to look or desire something. So that's the basic level of needing something. And then the values are internalized attitudes about what is right and wrong, ethical or unethical, or moral or immoral. So one's values are also those attributes, those internalized attitudes that they believe something is right or wrong, and they follow those values, and those values are important for one's decisions. And finally, the skills are the ability to do something in an effective manner. So each and every one of us have all these, and they have experienced gauging and measuring people's traits, needs, values, and skills. So let's see how these will come handy in leadership. Three-factor taxonomy of broadly defined skills. So knowledge about methods, processes, procedures, and techniques for conducting a specialized activity, and the ability to use tools and equipment relevant to the activity. So technical skills are the knowledge about the methods, like processes, procedures, and techniques. Basically, those skills that we are able to utilize when we are dealing with different methods or procedures or processes that we are dealing with, to make them better, to change them, to implement a certain type of technical skill in order to make some changes. Then interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills is knowledge about human behavior and interpersonal processes, ability to understand their feelings, their attitudes, their motives, and of others from what they say and do. So sometimes what people say is not necessarily what they really feel. So going through different levels of understanding of people's behavior and being able to communicate clearly and effectively. Sometimes we need to talk in a persuasive way. We need to influence people. We need to make them do something or stop them from doing something. So all those persuasions and influence that we have in our speaking, and ability to establish an effective and cooperative relationship. So, and so that relationship that we create with the others, like we establish an effective and cooperative relationship. So sometimes we use diplomacy, like we listen to them, and our listening should be really good so that we understand what they really want. Sometimes we need to read between the lines. If they say something, they might mean something else, or in the context, what they say are probably different from what they would say in a different context. So context is really important, and knowledge about acceptable social behavior. So knowing what is right and wrong in a social context. So all these, like how we communicate, establish relationships with other individuals, how we communicate and tell them what we mean exactly by saying certain things, and all in all is how we manage our relationships with others, which is also very important. And conceptual skills are the general analytical ability or logical thinking, proficiency in concept information, and conceptualization of complex and ambiguous relationships. So sometimes relationships are complex, they're difficult to understand, so we need to analyze them, we need to understand them and get the concept of that relationship. And creativity in idea generation and problem solving. So we need to have a conceptual skill to be able to generate an idea and be able to problem solve and analyze events and perceive trends. Sometimes we need to anticipate changes. So there are changes coming. We need to be able to foresee changes that are coming through and be ready for them. And then recognize opportunities and potential problems, like inducive and deductive reasoning. So sometimes we have to analyze and also be ready for the potential problems that are coming. So our analysis could be the basis for our preparation and communication to others about those changes that are coming and make them ready for the next steps. Okay. So there are findings in early research on leader traits and skills. So the findings was there are traits that mostly are applicable to leaders. What actually is the case is that leaders are mostly adaptable to situations. They adapt to situations and they are alert to social environment. They are mostly ambitious and achievement oriented. They're assertive, they're cooperative, decisive, dependable, dominant, and energetic, persistent, self-confident, tolerant of stress, and willing to assume responsibility. As you can see, most of these traits, behaviors are very common, usual among the leaders. So as you can see, they have to be adaptable to situations, because leaders would be, like generally they'll be put in different scenarios, different situations, and only those who are able to adapt themselves to those different situations and scenarios would be the successful ones, because in different situations there will be different circumstances and different requirements. So they should be able to adapt and adjust as soon as possible, because that's their job. And also because leaders are dealing with people, and it's like a social role that they play. They need to be alert to social environment. They need to understand the social environment around them and be able to analyze it, be able to understand it, conceptualize it. Then most of them are very ambitious. They want achievement. So if you are not ambitious for yourself, how could you be ambitious for others? So a leader in the first place has to be ambitious in his own roles, in his own life, be a certain person that who wants to achieve and be a goal-oriented, achievement-oriented person, so that he can apply it into the company also. So being achievement-oriented and also very ambitious will help the company and also the team members or employees to be able to follow and take him as a sort of lead. You know, they follow him. They need to be assertive also, because a leader, manager, leader, they have to be assertive. They have to be able to assert what they think. They have to be voicing out the problems, the mistakes. They have to acknowledge and recognize people's strong points. So they have to be assertive, and they have to voice out and focus and emphasize what exactly they want to communicate to their team. And they need to be cooperative. They need to cooperate with the team members. Sometimes they need to work out something out of a problem. They need to be able to communicate and cooperate, help each other, and do things together, not just as a single person role, like I tell you this and you do it. It's like everybody has a chunk of that pie, and they all together make it work. They have to be decisive also. Like they need to be able to make decisions, make those decisions possible, and then create activity out of those decisions, and have their followers and team members follow those decisions. So they need to be decisive. They need to be able to make the decision at the right time, at the right place, and have everybody accept it and follow it and get involved in it. And they also need to be dependable. So leaders are those people that you can really depend on. If you really ask them something, if you really need them for something, they should be there for you. Those are the people that you can really depend on. What they say, that's what they really follow through. So most of them are dominant. They have the power motivation, and they have the dominant power over the others. They like to be the dominant character in the group. So even if in social activities, you'll see which member is the most dominant. Mostly that's the leader, because their role is to take over the scenario, make decisions, make changes. So they have a pretty dominant role in the field. Then they are energetic mostly. So your leader, a person who is like down and depressed and silent and no energy, would not be a good leader. A good leader would be the one who is full of energy, here and there, just talking to everyone, making changes, making everybody happy, or probably trying to correct their problems. So full of energy and full of enthusiasm. So that's the type of leader that we're looking for. And they're persistent. They persist and persevere to make something happen. So sometimes there are a lot of times that some project is not working, is not going through. There are like loops and problems and minor defects. So the leader should be persistent enough to make sure those are gone away, and then it's going to work. So persistency and keeping on trying on something that you really believe it's going to be done is one of the keys in this role. Then they're tolerant of stress. A lot of stress, mostly when it comes to the leadership. So all the stress would be on the shoulders of the leader first, and that's the leader who decides how he would diversify it and how he would distribute
the stress to his employees. So how they manage stress, so they have to be very tolerant because there is a high level of stress on their shoulder. They have to be able to sustain and survive it, and willing to assume responsibility. Because a lot of times when people are like just employees or regular team members, when there is a problem, they don't necessarily take responsibility. They only do what they're required to. Like their job responsibility has certain number of activities in it, and they only partake in those, and they don't really care for like what else they can do or necessarily just getting the thing done. So that is why when a leader comes into play, the leader doesn't really mind taking over because the leader basically wants to get things done, and sometimes the only way is just to start doing them, even though it might not be the leader's responsibility. Maybe the leader has other things to do, but because the problem, he's called into doing that. So basically, there is no point arguing that, okay, this is not my job and I shouldn't do this and all that. So that's why it's more of just being able to take the responsibility and getting it done. And then the skills, mostly they are very skillful people, and what happens is they have to be clever, intelligent, high level of intelligence. Mostly we don't want stupid leaders, because if they are not able to perform, and if they're not able to understand the scenarios, how would they be able to help others understand? So it's really important that the leader be intelligent and smart and conceptually skilled. They have to be able to conceptualize and understand and see the scenario. Then they should be creative, like a creative mind, in order to create certain scenarios. And they have to be diplomatic and tactful. So sometimes they need to use diplomacy. They can't just be so direct. Sometimes they have to, with certain type of people or organizations or companies, they have to use diplomacy. They need to be fluent in speaking. Like they should be good speakers. They shouldn't have any problem giving speeches or trying to help people understand what they really need to do or not to do, and be able to give speeches anytime it's needed. And knowledge about the work. They need to be knowledgeable about the work. They need to know their stuff. Because as the leader, those are the guys who everybody will refer to. So when you have a problem and you don't know how to do something, who's the person you're going to ask from? It's probably your leader or a manager. So if your manager doesn't know, then that's really bad. So a lot of times your employees will just come to you and ask you questions about their roles. So you got to make sure that you know everything, and you are their final stop. If they ask you a question, you got to make sure you know the answer, or even if you don't know, you got to find the answer and get back to them. Then they need to be organized. So it's all about being organized and all about how you organize things, because a lot of times you got to make sure that you're organizing certain stuff in order for you to make them happen. So you can't just be an unorganized person. You need to be an organized person when you're dealing with a lot of responsibilities. You need to be able to organize them, sort them out, then according to their priorities, make sure you do those which are have the highest priority, and then take care of the rest. Then you need to be persuasive. You need to persuade people, and then socially skilled. You need to be socially skilled and skillful. Okay. So, any questions so far? Anybody have any comments or questions?
Okay, so let me ask you this question. Which one of these do you think is the most important, like the skills and traits? Tell me which one is the most important to you as the leaders. I mean, to you yourself. Anybody? Anybody wants to answer the question? So I repeat my question. Which one of these traits and skills is the most important to you? Yeah, which one of the traits? If you want to rank them, my question is, which trait do you rank the highest, and which skill do you rank the highest? Okay, self-confidence as a trait. Okay, and how about the skills? And which one of the skills do you think is the most important skill? Oh, creativeness. Okay. Why do you think those are important? Why being self-confident is important? You want to explain a bit what is the importance of being self-confident when you are a leader? Can you tell me why it is important? That's very true. That is very true, yes. Self-confidence is really important because it boosts up your personality and you are able to go beyond and then start being adaptable and alert and all that. Yeah, these values are really important, and those leaders who have these values will make a huge difference in their organizations or wherever they are. So those are really important, and it's really important for a leader to be able to do these. Okay, very good. Thank you. So McClelland's managerial motivation, this is a model measured with the thematic and uh, perceptions test. So these are some of the motivations that were measured. So it's like on a need basis. So sometimes you have a need for power, socialized power orientation, or personalized power orientation. So as we said, power is really important because you're going to make an influence on others. So you got to have power. But sometimes you're talking about social power, like the power you have socially over the others, or sometimes like personal power, so personalized power orientation. And then need for achievement. So sometimes you want to achieve certain things, so that achievement is really important. And need for affiliation. Sometimes you need to be able to affiliate with others. You need to cooperate. You need to be recognized with others. And then the optimal pattern for large organizations. Sometimes you need to be a strong socialized power orientation person, or moderate need for achievement, or low need for affiliation. So strong socialized power orientation. So that's probably one of the most important things according to this research. So going back to those traits, what really is important is how socially you have the influence and powers over the other team members. So that is really important because you make influences. And then the moderate need for achievement. So you need to be an achievement-oriented person. So you also need to focus on that. And finally, some affiliation. So all of these together will help you perform in that situation. And then minors, managerial motivation. So in this scenario, we are actually, it was measured with a sentence completion scale. So it correlates with advancement, or desire to exercise power, desire to compete with peers, and positive attitudes towards authority figures. As you can figure here, when you have the power as a leader, there are leaders who are afraid to exercise their power. Let's say a team member makes a mistake. Let's say a team member does something wrong. Then it is called upon you to make some actions, take some actions. So you have the power. If you don't exercise it, the team member will think, okay, I made a mistake, nothing happened, I'm going to do it again. But you got to make sure you exercise your power when you're called upon. You got to make sure you do what you're required to do when it is at the right time. So then sometimes you need to compete, you know. Competition is really important. You got to be competitive as a leader so that your team will follow you and know that that is the way to be. And then positive attitudes towards authority figures. Sometimes you want to have positive attitude because that is how you will make differences and changes. You don't want just to do something because it's the common way of doing it. You want to make some changes, and you want to make people understand how to behave at certain scenarios. So it's very important to understand how to behave, and like according to authority, what is the requirement? Because that's how people will follow, and they will do exactly the way you teach them to do. Okay. And then the critical incident research and competencies measured with behavior event interview. So there have been a lot of research done on basically how competencies on different scenarios or situations happen. So the traits of effective managers, like according to this research, like the same way I asked you what are the most important to you at this scenario, the most important to them were strong efficiency orientation. So they were strongly efficient. Whatever they would do, they made sure to do it correctly and promptly and with the highest level of effectiveness, which means that with the highest level of getting things done with the fastest, probably most efficient way.
Then strong socialized power orientation, that's what we just discussed also. Because as we said, you have a social role. It's not something that you just go into your room and you have no contact with others. As a manager or leader, even though you have a room and probably can stay there for the whole day, you got to be able to communicate with the other members or staff. So it's really about social power and how you influence and how you communicate with those other staff of the company. And then a high self-confidence. This is what most of you mentioned, which is really important, because if you don't have self-confidence, how would you be able to communicate something good to others? Because in the first place, you don't have the self-confidence. So not having self-confidence, you won't be able to communicate with power, authority, or social power. Because for you to make changes, your words and your comments should come from a confident source. If your source is not confident, you're not sure yourself, how would you expect others to be sure and follow according to your comment? And strong belief in self-efficacy and in self, so to speak. Because the more you believe in something, the more you will be able to communicate it, and the more you'll be able to get results. Because it's all about efficacy or power of creating effects. So you need to have a strong belief when you are trying to create results. And then internal locus of control. So a lot of times when you want to make something possible, you've got to have some location or source of control. So you've got to be the center of the control, to be exact. So your position needs to be the central place for power. That's basically what management and leadership is because you want to make sure that you source and you direct the power correctly and everybody can follow. It's not that you want to be a dictatorial leader that you tell everyone what to do and it's exactly what they do. It's basically more of how you communicate, how you tell them that certain things that should be done is because of these, and how you make sure that you make them understand your role, you know. Because even though we don't want to be like the only decision maker, we don't want to be like a telling leader that we tell everyone what to do, what not to do. We don't want to be just the only decision maker. So that's not what we are suggesting. What we are suggesting, though, is you just need to tell them the source of the power. They need to know that it's you who is the decision maker, the final decision maker in many situations. So they need to understand that, and they need to welcome that, and you need to be able to communicate it, because that's your role. So being able to communicate your role and making sure that everybody understand your role in the organization is really important. So some other critical competencies or roles are interpersonal skills of effective managers. So as we talk, interpersonal skills are when we are able to communicate with others and we are able to basically tell them what exactly we mean and establishing relationships with them.
So it's really important because end of the day, your role as a manager is a social role because you're not managing machines. I mean, there probably are some machines or some different things that you want to make sure that they are working properly. But what you end up managing is not those machines, but the people who work for you. So your role is a social role. So you gotta be able to have some interpersonal skills because you're dealing with people. So you got to make sure that you're able to communicate with them. So your oral presentations. So it's really bad when I see the managers, like certain managers, that they are required or called upon doing something, or let's say giving out a presentation or speech, and they're really afraid of doing that. They basically try to escape it, and that's really bad because as a manager, that's one of your roles. You gotta make sure that you're able to, you know, present, and you have good presentational skills. Then interpersonal skills that just talked about. You got to make sure that you are able to talk to other people, make some differences in when you're dealing with them. You're able to communicate what you really want to communicate. And then finally, your ability to build a member identification and team spirit. And finally, conceptual skills of effective managers. So as we discussed, you've got to be able to conceptualize. You've got to be able to do inducive or deducive reasoning. So when you're analyzing things, you are basically trying to understand what certain logical process is going on, and be able to explain it to others. So that is actually what we call conceptual understanding. So you really want to make sure that you have the ability to understand the situation properly and be able to explain it to others. So to understand these two different types of logical analysis, first we got to know what is inducive reasoning and what is deducive. So can anybody explain that? Do you know what it is? Yeah, my question was, do you know what is inducive reasoning and what is deducive reasoning? Have you ever heard of these terms? What is your understanding of these? Before I explain, I want to see what you know about it.
Okay, so I'll just explain it to you. So for inducive reasoning, it's like a bottom-up approach. You pinpoint a fact about something, and then you try to generalize it. So it's a bottom-up approach. But deductive reasoning is coming from general and then going to pinpoint it to somebody. Like, let's say a good example, like just an example would be for inducive reasoning is, let's say Jack is a mortal person. Then he is a human, so all humans are mortal. So we are going from a certain person, we try to generalize it. But the deductive reasoning for that would be all human are mortal. Jack is a human, so he is mortal. So as you can see, if we go from the general concept going down to that certain example or context, it's deductive. But if you start from that certain person and try to generalize it, it's inducive reasoning. So that is really helpful for effective managers because sometimes you got to use them both, or sometimes you got to use only one of them, or sometimes you got to use a mixture of both, because you got to understand what's the situation and how you deal and how you analyze it. So let's say your employee is not working well. So if the approach that level of working of your employees with an inducive reasoning, you say, okay, this employee is not working pretty well, then he is an HR employee, so all the HR employees are not working well. Is that a fair judgment? Probably not. But then you could look at it as a deductive reasoning and see, like, let's say, what is the general, like, procedure that is happening here, or why all these HR people are not probably making or being able to achieve their goals. Then you pinpoint, like, okay, certain department of or certain unit of the HR is not doing their job, and then you pinpoint and find out exactly the certain person who's in charge is not probably understanding the scenario. So it's like depends on the situation, and you can't just judge on one situation. You gotta really research hard in both different methods and make sure you understand what exactly is happening, so you will be able to analyze it. Any questions so far for inducive reasoning and deducive reasoning? Any questions? Okay, that's cool. It's deductive, but it's also deducive. It's basically because you induce. It comes from the verb induce and deduce. So induce is when you make a decision on that. So it's commonly referred to as inductive and deductive. But it comes from the verb induce and deduce. Yeah, so inductive and deductive is also the term that especially here in the book is mentioning, but it comes from that verb, induce and deduce. So it's better to call inductive and deductive. Sure. Any other questions? Okay, so let's go to the next slide then. Okay, longitudinal research assessment centers. We gotta, as I mentioned, we gotta utilize different methods, and so there was a study by a company called AT&T, which is a communication company here, mostly dealing with
cables, mobile, cell phones, and all that. It's a huge company. It covers most of the United States. So they have the desire for advancements. So they have dominance, interpersonal skills, cognitive skills, and administrative skills. So these are the advancement predictors after 8 years. So study shows, this AT&T study shows, that those who have desire for advancement, they have dominance, interpersonal skills, cognitive skills, and administrative skills are those who advance in the company. And for advancement predictors for over 20 years are those who have achievement orientation, self-confidence, energy level, and low need of security. So it's like open to change. What does really stand out for you, like looking at these two, especially the one which is for 8 years and one is for 20 years? What differences do you see? How are these two traits different? Any comments? Anybody wants to answer the question? So my question was, how are these two different from each other? One is for 8 years and one is for 20 years. What major differences do we see here? Yes, but the long term and short term, what major differences do we see? How can you explain these differences? I mean, why do you think it is that for long-term achievement and self-confidence are more important, whereas in the shorter term, if you desire for advancement and dominance is more important? What does it tell us, these differences? Yeah, time management, okay, yeah. But why do you think it is important for like a shorter term to have desire for advancement, whereas for a longer term to have achievement or orientation? And then dominance for the first and the self-confidence for the second. Yeah, probably. Because in the shorter term, like desire for advancement just takes you to the next step because you want to advance as fast as possible. But for the longer term, it's your achievements in all these different roles that you have is also very important. It's actually more important than just your advancement. So you just don't want to advance. You want to make sure you are able to, achieve goals, or, make sure that you are able to get certain things done. So those are the major differences that you could see that, let's say, in a regular advancement job that you're just trying to advance, you don't really care for your certain roles. You basically try to achieve your goals in all those roles. Whereas in a shorter term, you just want to go to the next step. And then when it comes to the second important one is dominance. So the shorter term one has more of a dominance. you want to be dominant. But the second one, like the longer term, is your self-confidence that is taking you. So it's like a deeper level, as you can see, if you will. And then the energy level and low need for security means that you are able to sustain and tolerate all those changes and insecurity. So longer term, we need more of a self-confidence. We need more of a tolerance for lack of security. But for shorter terms, as you can see, it's more of how we are able to deal with those scenarios and be able to advance. So this is also something, food for thought, if you will, that if your roles are in your corporations or companies is something for short term, you got to prioritize your skills or traits in a way that is suitable for the time that you're working there. And if you want to stay there for a long time, probably you want to look at it in a different way. That's really important to understand how to expect things, how to analyze things, and how to basically try to cope with different scenarios, having different roles and expectations from your job. So probably that is something you want to think about when it comes to your role and your job and your perspective. Yes, 8 years is not short time. It's actually very long time, especially at this market and economy that people are moving from jobs to jobs like very fast. But this research is trying to give us some understanding of a shorter term and a longer term. Probably for even a shorter period of time, let's say for a 1 year period, there will be even a different trait that we would look into. So it's even different when it comes to a shorter term. So probably that would be more of, in 1 year, you don't really want to advance in that company. Probably you want to master what you are doing, and then some interpersonal skills, cognitive skills are important. Then probably your certain other skills could be important, like interpersonal skills. You want to make sure that you get to know as many people, and you want to make sure that you're able to improve as much as you can. So it's more of an interpersonal skills you're looking at. So as you can see, when the time changes, your preferences or your priorities would also change. So that is also something important. So even for a year, which is much shorter than 8 years, we will have a different set of interpersonal skills that are important. Okay, any questions so far? Any comments or questions? Okay. So let's go to the next slide then. Yes, absolutely. But the only thing is we need to be able to prioritize. It's not that you don't have those skills. It's just that you are putting them in different orders. So you got to have all those skills and traits that we discussed to be able to perform and be successful. And we are not saying that you don't need to have all those. What we are saying is only you need to be able to put certain things in higher rank of importance at different roles. So when you are, let's say, planning to stay there for a longer time, then you probably want to look at it in a different way and with a different perspective. That's what you're probably trying to say. So it's not the fact that you're saying that you don't need to have both of them. It's just the fact that you need to put one in a higher level of importance and the next one in a lower level of importance. Okay, good. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. Then advancing managers versus managers who were dismissed or transferred or retired early. Then skills, competencies of successful managers. So as you can see here, even successful managers are they have different priorities. You see emotional stability, lack of defensiveness, integrity, interpersonal skills, technological and cognitive skills. So in the same research, you see that emotional stability is also very important. Lack of defensiveness or integrity or interpersonal skills and technological skills are important because the company is a company that is really in technology savvy. So it's also dependent on the type of company that you're working at. If it's a company that is dealing with a lot of changes, you're probably dealing with a lot of emotional feelings because everybody's changing, everything is changing. So you got to be able to be a stable person who doesn't mind some instability. And also, you got to be a person who doesn't mind to, you know, deal with a lot of learning regarding technology. So all that are factors that are pretty important when it comes to your company. But you got to know what are the requirements of the company or working for that company, what exactly it takes for you to work, let's say, in AT&T, which is a technology-savvy company, rather than a company which is only dealing with certain things that are pretty much the same, which are the policies and procedures. So those are also some stuff that you got to think about. Okay, any questions so far? Any comments or questions? Okay. All right. So let's go to the next slide where there is no question. So specific traits related to leadership effectiveness: high energy level and stress tolerance, self-confidence, internal locus of control, emotional maturity, personal integrity, socialized power, motivation, moderately high achievement orientation, low need for affiliation. So these are also some traits that are important for being effective as a manager. So as you can see here, there are low needs for affiliation, not much of affiliation, but high level of achievements, socialized power, personal integrity, emotional maturity. All these are, you know, very important when it comes to your success and effectiveness. The correspondence of big 5 traits with the specific traits. The big 5 are surgency. It's like extroversion, energy, need of power. Then the next one is conscientiousness, which is dependable, personal integrity, need for achievement. And then agreeableness, cheerful and optimistic. Nurturance, how to nurture people, help people up, build people up. Adjustment, emotional stability, self-esteem and self-control. And in intellectence, which is curious and inquisitive, and learning-oriented and open-minded. So as you can see, these are the big five. The big five actually break down into smaller traits. So that actually helps you to sort of analyze and look into your own priorities also, because sometimes we need to break things into smaller versions and be able to because sometimes we need to make changes. Let's say you're not happy with your adjustment to different situations. So how would you be able to change that? So one of the ways to change that is to break it down into smaller specific traits, start building them up, and that will help your general adjustment level to change. So let's say if you have problem with adjustment, you can see how you could become a better emotionally stable person, how to boost up your self-esteem and self-control. And end of the day, all these together will help you to be able to adjust to situations. So as you can see, like these big fives and those specific traits, like the specific traits help you to build up your bigger traits and bigger attributes. Do you have any questions so far? Any questions, any comments? Okay, let's go to the next slide then. So technical skills, they include knowledge about methods, processes, equipment, conducting and specialized activities of the manager's orientations unit. Conceptual skills they involve good judgment, foresight, intuition, creativity, and ability to find meaning and order in ambiguous, uncertain events. And finally, interpersonal skills include knowledge about human behavior, group processes, ability to understand the feelings, attitudes, and motives of others, and ability to communicate clearly and persuasively. So technical skills, they include knowledge about methods, processes, and equipment for conducting those activities that you're dealing with. So you need to know the processes, the methods, the equipment that you're dealing with, and you need to be knowledgeable about that. So that's how you improve your technical skills. Conceptual skills, when it comes to it, it's basically your good judgment, your intuition, your creativity, and the ability to find meaning in order and order in ambiguous or uncertain events. And finally, interpersonal skills it's inclusive of the knowledge about how the human behavior works, how you deal with people, how their feeling works, how their attitudes change, and all that. So that's how you will be able to, persuade them or talk them into certain things and stop them from doing things.
Other relevant competencies are emotional intelligence, social intelligence, system thinking, and ability to learn. These are also very important for your leadership role. You got to be intelligent regarding emotions. You got to understand what emotions people have, what they mean, how to react to their emotions. So it takes a certain level of intelligence. And then social intelligence. You got to be a social person. You got to be able to socially connect with people and communicate with them and tell them or assert what exactly you feel or think about things. And then be able to do like inductive or deductive reasoning that we just talked about. Be able to induce or deduce whenever you want to make a decision. Be able to think about it and like analyze it cover to cover so that you're able to make the right decision. And then you're able to learn, because as a leader or a manager, a lot of times you're dealing with changes. Your employees or staff will leave, new environments, your company will change their policy, and a lot of things will change. So you should be able to learn a lot. So if you're just going to rely on what you already know and you're not willing to learn more, probably you should change your role. Because as a leader or manager, you got to learn a lot. And that learning, it takes time, it takes energy. So your ability to learn and being open to learning is really important. Because a lot of times you got to learn from your employees. A lot of managers, they don't like it. They don't like to learn from others, and they think it's only their way which is the correct way. So I really advise you not to think like that, and I really advise you to be able to learn from every single person in your company. So if you're a leader, you should be the one who probably needs the learning the most, because you got to learn much more than everybody else does, because you want to make sure that you will learn as much as you can about their behaviors, their social life, their work life, how to help them, how to build them up. And to do that, it takes a lot of energy and learning. So that is probably our takeaway from today's class, is really focus on learning as a leader and manager, so that you're able to master whatever you're going to do and be able to help others to be successful as well. So as you can see here, it's like a chart for us to better understand. You have the managerial level, low and high, at the bottom, and then the skill level required. So as you can see, for the high-level managers, you have lower technical skills, but high conceptual skills and interpersonal skills. Because technical skills come like last, because you are coming up with the big picture. You have gone through all those, and then now is the time for you to, to tell people what to do, like the strategy level, like the policy level, and then dealing with people, and you're a people person and all that. Middle is like pretty much a balanced version of everything. But when it comes to the lower managers, it's interestingly, you need high technical skills. You need a middle interpersonal, and then final conceptual skills come last, because that's probably your start from management. That's how you build up your conceptual skills. And your technical skills doesn't mean that they go down, but you don't need them as much as you move on in your roles. And your interpersonal skills actually stay somewhere in between, but they are more important than conceptual skills at the beginning. But they become less important. Because conceptual skills is your ability to understand situations, your ability to envision where you want to go to. That is really important. So I have this comment that Ms. Managerial says technical skills is the first in our society. That's the reason, because you are starting to build up those, companies, or, they're at their stage of, like, their opening stage and all that. So when you move up with the advancement of that corporation or company that you're working, it will change. So any questions on this chart? Exactly, that's true. Technical skills, as I said, like just suppose, let's say, dealing with Microsoft. Microsoft is a well-established company. When you start at Microsoft, all they care for is your ability to perform like with the technical stuff, with the softwares and all that. So they don't really care about your management skills. But as you move on, let's say Bill Gates, now he only takes care of the conceptual side, only the interpersonal skills. You know, the technical side, he doesn't bother that much because there are people who are doing it. It's not that he doesn't know how to do it. It's the fact that he doesn't need it. He is more into conceptual, like the policies, the visions and missions of the company, where the company is going for and all that. And then interpersonal skills, he's dealing with people, how to manage people, people management, micro and macro, all those kind of managements. So that is the fact that is lying there. And for lower level, the starter person, he needs to know the skills. He needs to know the technical part, which is the most important. And then he can grow, and then he will need it less and less. Okay, any questions? Any comments, any questions? Okay, so situational relevance, transferability of the skills across organizations. So a lot of these skills are transferable. They got to be transferred into the next generation, into the next level in organization. Sometimes it's difficult to transfer lower level managerial skills or disagreement about transferability of upper level managerial skills. So a lot of these skills that we have, we got to transfer them into the newbies, into the ones who are coming in and they want to learn, and in a few years from now, they probably will do what we do when we are retired. So, but it's difficult to transfer a lot of times. And there are always disagreements on how to transfer them. Then there are requisite skills in external environment, like mix of skills changes over time, impacted by globalization, technological development, and social change. So our skills are changing all the time. So the mixture of our skills will also change, and we gotta live with that. We gotta be able to manage that. We gotta be able to like it, and we gotta be able to perform under that scenario. Okay. So any questions on this? Then application for managers. So guidelines for understanding and improving relevant competencies is we need to maintain self-awareness. We got to be able to be aware of our abilities, our skills, knowledge, whatever we know. We got to know ourselves and develop relevant skills. We got to develop and create new skills in ourselves and be able to, maintain them. We got to be able to develop them, and then remember that a strength can become a weakness. A lot of times you have a strength, and then over the time, because of the changes and a lot of that, that strength is not any strong point anymore, and it might become a weakness. So let's say you, like back in the day, being able to do a lot of paperwork and document everything in like paper type was probably a strong point. But now because of all these technology and computer advancements and all that, if you're doing a lot of paperwork, it's actually a weak point because now people don't like it. You got to be able to work with the computer, and I mean, even if you want to do a documentation, it should not be in paper-based because it's frowned upon in a lot of companies now. So it's like how it changes because of the changes in the environment and in technology and the industry, that your strong point becomes a weak point. And then how to compensate for our weaknesses, how to change them, how to make them our strong point again. So that is also very important. Are there any questions so far? Any comments or questions? No comments? Any questions? Okay, very good. So while there's no questions, let me talk about how we are going to assess this semester, the leadership. It's almost about the end of the semester. We have one more session. I want to talk about how I'm going to assess. And the last session after the chapter, we're going to discuss in more depth. But I just want to mention that today. And like last session, I will discuss it in detail. So what's going to happen is, end of the semester, which is next session, I'll give you an individual course outline, individual assignment actually. I'm not going to give you any group assignment. Last semester, the group assignments were not very satisfactory because a lot of you were submitting your assignments too late, or a lot of groups couldn't present in the class, in the session, they were not ready and all that. So I decided to change the assessment. So what I will do, end of the session, like next week, I'll give you an individual topic that I require your individual work in 3 weeks. So next week, 3 weeks from next week, you give me your individual assignment. So you have 3 weeks to work on it individually. I don't require any group work from you. And then 2 weeks from next week, you'll have a final exam. Your final exams will be administered by the admin. I'll give them the questions. So what happens is you will log in for your final exam, and your final exam, you'll log in, and it's like open book, but you have only 1.5 hours to answer the questions and submit it in. And then you turn in your answers, and so that's your assessment for this semester. Just wanted to mention that so that you know in advance what's going to come up next. As it has been discussed so many times, the slides are available on the video mode, as you can see, like with my voiceover. They are recorded, they are in your LMS. The slides, the individual slides, are not going to be distributed because of the copyright. We are not able to give you the slides, but you have the slides with my explanation in video, like in YouTube version, on our Facebook, and also on your LMS. You actually have the slides. It's only you got to open like the recorded version. Every session has been recorded. Every session you can log in and listen to classes as many times as you like. You can fast forward or rewind whenever you want and just review the slides. The only thing is the PowerPoint, we are not supposed to give it to you, and it's because of the copyright. It has been discussed so many times. I believe the admin has already told you about it as well. So you already have the slides. You just gotta log into your LMS and MLMS and your learning center and get that from there. Or you can just go to our Facebook. Every session they upload the
the recorded version of the class. As you can see, every session I record, and you always can go back and reread and re-listen to the class. So you do have the slides, but in a different style. And then finally, your book is also your best source. I told you what is the book that you require, and basically that is also a good source. All these slides are made from the book. Okay, any other questions, any comments? I doubt it, Mr. Rafa. I think LMS is much better because it's more efficient. But if you like Facebook, it's up to you. But LMS is actually more efficient, and it's like much easier to use. But if you like to use Facebook, go ahead. It's also very good because you also have all the sessions. Every single session that we discuss, they upload the video there. So it's up to you, whichever works for you. And I believe that you can just download the video from Facebook also. You can just download the whole video, the whole class into your computer. So basically it's pretty helpful. From LMS, if you need any help, feel free to call admin. They are there for you, and they absolutely will be happy to help you. Whatever questions you have, just call them, and they'll be happy to explain whatever questions that you have. But what I mean for downloading, I mean even from Facebook, you can download those clips. So it's also something you can do. And you don't necessarily need to download anything. You can just view it on the Facebook page. But I mean, if you want to. Okay. So that is how we're going to assess this semester. We are going to have an individual assignment due in 3 weeks and your final exam in 2 weeks' time. So these two together, plus your class participation and all of that, and also those tasks that I gave in the class and people would participate, all of that together will give us a a good idea of how to assess students in the class. Okay. So are there any questions, any comments that I can answer or help you answer? If you really need help on LMS, please call the admin. They'll be happy to help you how to use it. Please call them. They'll be happy to help you. So if you have any questions on your LMS ID or how to use LMS or certain things don't work for you, contact them. You can email them or call them up, and they'll be happy to help you. Our friends in the admin are really helpful, and they're there to, help you with whatever issue that you might have. So please feel free to use that support that you have right there. Okay. Yes. So please use that. Whatever questions you have, just go ahead and ask them. They'll be happy to help you. And any other comments? Oh, I really I appreciate your understanding. As I said, the PowerPoint slides are not supposed to be given to the students because of the copyright. So I can't email it to you. The admin was supposed to find it out, and we are not supposed to email that out. So it's not that I don't want to help you. It's just we are not supposed to send them. So as I explained, you can always go to Facebook or LMS and listen to the recorded version of the slides with my voiceover. So it's even better than the PowerPoints that you have it already. So I won't be able to send you the slides. Okay. So if there's no question, we can finish the course right here, the class right here, and I'll see you in the next class, which is our economic class. Any other comments or questions?
Okay. Okay, I'd like to explain what I explained to Ms. Mina so that everybody knows. She says that the slides, we are only using them for our personal use. I really would love to have this conversation once and last for all. These slides, we buy and purchase them from the publisher. Like the Pearson is the one we bought all these materials to enhance learning. And when you purchase a material from them, a learning material, they tell you their policies and procedures, and you as an educator, you have to follow exactly what they tell you, because otherwise you'll be in trouble. They could sue your company and all that. So we don't choose to give you the slides or not. That's what they require us to do, and they say don't distribute the slides to the students. So what we are doing though is just giving you the slides with my voiceover as a recorded version. We are actually trying to play it around and give you what we can give you. So I really appreciate your understanding. We are not all in Afghanistan, like Ms. Mina says, like it's different there, but like I'm in California, your lectures are in other places, and your school is in Malaysia. We have to follow international copyright rules. Otherwise, we will be in trouble. So I really appreciate your understanding. As I said, the slides, we cannot give it to you because of the copyright. It's not that we don't like to give you or anything else. It's the recorded version of the classes are available to you. So that's the only thing. I really appreciate your understanding, and I'm sure you can use those recorded classes on your Facebook or your LMS. Thank you.